Hi everyone, and welcome to this video where I showcase to you how you can set up your VS Code and Claude Code to basically build anything with AI. Why do I want to do this and why do you want to do this? You can do a lot of things with Claude and Claude, the chatbot that you can see here. You can ask questions, you can create artifacts, you can create projects. So all amazing things that you can do with Claude. However, I find that the most amazing and the most interesting things that you can actually build are with Claude Code. And that's why I moved from Claude to also, I used Cursor before and Lovable and some other coding tools to finally my current setup, which is with VSCode and Claude Code. And that is the one that really helps me to build full stack applications, agents, whatever I want to build very easily. And I find this combination the best one to, as I said, almost build anything with AI. And for that reason, this video is for you to just understand how you set it all up, so you have everything done. And from there, you can then start to build those agents and so on, which we will do in the next videos. So let's get started. So what you need is, as I said, Claude Code and VS Code. VS Code is something that you find here in code.visualstudio.com. You can download it very easily. It's free, as it says open source. So you can just download it for your Mac OS, but also for your Windows computer. And once you download it, you can then open it. You don't need to do anything about Claude Code by itself. The only thing that you actually need is a Claude AI subscription. So if you don't have a Claude AI subscription, go to Anthropic or Claude AI here and just sign up to it. It's like a 2 or 3 step process. And it works best if you have a Claude AI Pro subscription or anything upon that, which basically means it will cost you $20 per month at least. But at the same time, if you would try to hire a programmer or a coder or someone to build it for you, your automations, I can assure you, you would pay way more. And even if you just want to build like small little artifacts, you're already way more effective if you're actually having a Pro subscription. So now that you have Visual Studio Code, so once you downloaded it, you will find it in your applications. And I just open it here so you actually see how it looks like. So this is my Visual Studio Code. Looks very, nothing very special in the very beginning, but you very soon will see the logic behind it and why it is so beautiful when you're actually creating and building products with VS Studio Code together with Claude Code. So how you do this, you just open here a specific folder, you could say. So we do this, we go here to open. I would always suggest not to put this into desktop or download, especially when you're on a Mac, because if you do this, it will automatically sync to your iCloud and it can have some problems if it's not completely also on your desktop. So if you make sure it's always downloaded, all good, but if not, go via your normal home folder and then we just here choose one. I already have AI practice and practice folder. So we choose that folder and what it does is it simply opens the folder. And when it's opened the folder, what you can see here, it says AI practice folder, and that's it. So the only thing it basically does is to have this folder, and you can put in as many folders below that, but also we will fill this up later with code or specific other folders that are relevant for the work that we are doing. So what you can do is, for example, you can just choose here and say, I want to have a new folder. It also says it, and you say, for example, new folder. Wait a second. So now you simply have a new folder. You can also do subfolders, so new subfolder. And obviously you can do like subfolders, or you can just click on this one here, and then you say new subfolder. How do we say this? Folder number 2. And now we have 2 subfolders here. You can also create files, which is, for example, your classical document or like your Google worksheet or whatever it is. So it's a normal file, and the file can have any kind of extensions. So you will see that later we have different extensions. The normal ones is like docx, for example, for docs, or Excel, XSLX. So all these are kind of file structures. And here we have a new file. So one that is often used, for example, here is called Markdown. So you can say Markdown file.md. So md is kind of the extension for a Markdown file. And this is something where you can write text, but we have some more options of how you can write the text. So for example, we can say, hey, I am a text. And I can also say, for example, this, hey, I am a text. I think this works actually. And then this becomes, for example, bold. So there's some options that you can do, but you can also use just a normal text. So for example, new file, and you say text file dot text, and then you have a text file. Here I am a text. So as easy as that, but as said, we will later on have more and different folders and different also files. And there are tons of different files. And if you better understand what each of these files do, then it will also help you to better understand what Claude is actually doing and will help you to structure what you're working on. And you can also include, for example, CSV file, Excel files, and so on. You can all put them into these folders. You can also just drag and drop them. You can do this either via your computer or you directly do it here. So there is no limitation in that sense. It's just kind of the holding structure of where then we work on one specific project. You can even do something where other people, so I do this as well sometimes, is that I have, for example, one overarching folder, and then I have like 5 different projects within, and then Claude Code can basically access all of those 5 folders and work within those 5 folders. And so if you have, for example, something that is like one folder and the other folder and they're connected, or you want to kind of do connections between them and say, okay, I want to automate from one folder to another folder, then this is something that you can also do here by just adding those folders. Claude Code, however, can also work without those folders. So even if you're not having this open, or like having other projects and other folders not open, then it just needs like one open folder for you to kind of, like know what's going on, and then you can connect via that one too. So these are folders, and you already see we have Claude Code here on the right side. That's something that happened because I have Claude Code already included in my VS Code and already kind of installed. But how you get it into your own VS Code once you're there the first time is that you go to extensions. So you also see it comes up extensions. You go on this one and you search Claude Code. You see already here I have it here, but just to make sure I have it here too. 1 second. Claude Code. So here you see there are several Claude Code assistants. The one that you need is the one that is published by Anthropic. And you see it here, it says this publisher has verified ownership of anthropic.com. So make sure that you pick this one and not another one. And once you click it, you can install here. I would uninstall because I already have it installed. You install it here. And the moment you have it, you can open it. And then here you find either your Claude Code here or you find it in here. So basically here, if you click, you see we open one more Claude Code, the terminal, or one chat box, not terminal. And there is an option to do this in the terminal, but I will just quickly show you how it is. But I personally prefer to having my Claude Code here. You can move it around, you can make it smaller or bigger. The same is true for this area, if you like to play around and just improve your experience. But I always like to go here to the Explorer, because here you see all of your folders and files. Here you see the files themselves. And then on this side, you see the chat. And then there's something as a terminal. So you go here on, you don't see it because I cut it from the video, but there is this line that says like terminal, and you pick new terminal. And then here you have a terminal, which is another way where you can communicate. You can do this via Claude as well, directly here. But I think especially for the beginning, it's easier to work in the chatbot. But this becomes handy later when we connect specific new tools, when we install specific so-called packages, when we make sure that we have all the tools that we need to actually bring our products to life and our ideas to life. And so this becomes very important. But right now, this is the main setup that you need to actually make it work. And then once we have that, we can actually start. So we can say something like very basic, right? So we could say, for example, hey Claude, or whatever you want to call it, or just hey, I want to build a landing page for my website so that leads can, or people, sign up to my newsletter. How can I do that? So that is like, I mean, one example. You can do whatever examples. But that is something where you see, okay, I just increase that. You see that Claude automatically takes the markdown file as a starting point, which is obviously a bit irrelevant because here we just have I am text. But however, now it starts to think about it. It already integrates some of my other pages because I gave it access to. So we will stop having it here now searching everything because it searches already through newsletters on other projects. But what we can do to make sure that it only touches this specific folder, we can say, hey, I want to learn about the different file structures of markdown, text, and so on. Please explain them to me and write them into the markdown file.md that we have set up in the, and now it comes my folder structure on my computer. So this is one example, right? So you kind of give it directions and say, okay, where are we actually? Where are we working on? And let's focus on only that specific structure. And this is a learning prompt, for example, but you can also add another prompt, and we do more and more prompts in the other videos where we go into details, you know, like, okay, what kind of prompts can you ask to actually get your results? So for example, how do you do lead generation, how you create like your website, how you create an AI agent, what kind of tools can you connect to different AI agents? So that's something that we will tackle then. But this is something that you can write to make sure AI really focuses on this specific folder. And then you just click enter. And then AI will now focus more specifically, or Claude more specifically, on that specific file. And it reads this file then, the markdown file. In our case, I mean, it's not saying too much. But it directly realizes it. So it says the file has your 2 practice lines in it. I'll keep those at the top and add a beginner-friendly guide about common file formats below them. So it takes those things into account. And what is very relevant is also, you know, especially when you want to do something, you start, for example, a markdown file and say, this is my objective. And then let AI read exactly your objective. So it already has some ideas about what you're actually wanting to achieve. But now you see what it done is. It says done. I've written a full guide into markdown file.md, so exactly that file that we created beforehand, keeping your 2 practice lines at the top. Here's the short version. Then it talks about the big idea, and then all of these different, you could say, yeah, all these different here formats that we have. And so this, it helps you in general, obviously, but it is just an example here that you can use. So you have plain text formats, that's what we talked about, the text and the MD. This markdown file, plain text plus lightweight formatting symbols, that's exactly this one that we had here, the bold text. And then we have the markdown. It explains your heading, bold, italic items. Normally it just writes it for you, so you can even say, hey, I want to have a specific text, for example, in different text style, then this is something that you can do. And it also says here, for example, good for documentation, readmes, notes, blog posts. That's something that we talk about in the next video. And then here are more structured data forms. You don't have to read through them right now because that's something that we will do later. But it's always helpful to better understand, you know, like what's possible, how do they look like. So for example, hard HTML is everything like the main structure of a website. So here are specific tags. You don't have to go into detail as that because AI will do it for you, but it's good if you have a rough understanding of how to read it. because then you can better understand, okay, how are those different parts stacked together, and what do they actually mean. So HTML is said as like a general format for a website structure. CSS is the styling, but there are also some other options of how you can do styling nowadays. JavaScript is or TypeScript is a very kind of interactive language that you often see when you click a button on a website. That's not so relevant. And then some key takeaways. So just by that, we created this file. And now you can say, okay, Claude AI can do exactly the same thing for me. It can also create a file. Yes, it can, but then you have to save the file again. And you have to do something with the file. It's not that the file is directly in your folder where you want to have it. And especially when it comes to programming and using AI to program and get AI agents to life, it becomes very handy because you have everything directly together. And we can now more easily also say we have this file here, now make some changes to a file. So that's why I personally like that a lot. But there will be some projects that we will be doing that don't directly work that good with Claude Code. So for example, if you have an Excel file and you want to just clean up the data, then it doesn't work as smooth maybe if the data is not clean. So that's something that I learned, for example, then I would use more Gemini and another AI, or Gemini because it lives, for example, in the Google Sheets and the Google kind of numbers. But these are like the small little things that then define of maybe not using it. But for most of those things that you want to build, especially when you want to build, be it in go-to-market product or so on, then this is something that you can definitely use. And this is a basic setup. So I would really encourage you to just set it up, because once you have it, you can do incredible things with it. And with that, see you next time.